In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen. Amen.
We join Jesus today on Monday of Holy Week, and he's got some trick questions. The Sadducees had given up and gone home and stopped bothering to trap him, but the Pharisees are still trying, and the cynical people among us might say that they were really trying to trap Jesus by this or make the Sadducees look bad or just increase their own profile. But I think Jesus gave this lawyer the benefit of the doubt. I think that he said, okay, I'm going to take you seriously, I'm going to answer you seriously. And sometimes it's fun to do that, isn't it? When someone's giving you a trick question or kind of trying to trap you, you can, just give them the benefit of the doubt and answer them as if they really meant it. And sometimes something good can come out of that conversation instead of just, shunting it off to the side for what it is. And Jesus does this so often. He just answers people. He answers the question. He doesn't read behind it. He just answers the question. And here in the answer that's given to this Pharisee, we get the great commandments. He says the two things that are the most important are to love God and to love your neighbor. Now, that's not an oversimplification. It's actually an intensification. He brings together the Shema, the great teaching of love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your body. And he brings it together with the teaching, the verse from Leviticus, love your neighbor. And together, he shows he's this wonderful Orthodox Jew who can really distill things. And he shows us that love is to be the center and the core of our faith as followers of Jesus. The core value, God's love for us. God's love for us leads us to our love for God and our love for each other. In John 3:16 we hear, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever should believe in him will not perish, but have eternal life." God first loved us, and so now we have a chance. Perhaps we can learn how to love God, and through our love for God, learn how to love each other. Because all of those things are entwined and rely upon each other. You can't really tease them apart. Jesus also says to his disciples, "They will know you're my followers because you love one another." Love is essential. Love is part of being a healthy human being. We've all read the stories of orphans in orphanages where they're fully clothed, they are fed, they have their bodily needs taken care of, but there's no one that holds them or speaks to them or loves them, and they are just not formed as human beings. They can't live as healthy human beings in that way. Also in addiction, we see that there have been studies done that people who go home with opioids, which is the huge addiction problem now, but the ones that go home to a loving environment and have stable support at home are much less likely to be started down the road to addiction. This is the basis of self-help AA and NA groups, that the relationships and the love and the sharing of community can help people, because at our core, we are relational human beings. We are people who need love in our lives, need to love and need to be loved. We're created by God to be in relationship. We're driven by that need to be in relationship. And so our primary calling as followers of Jesus is to show love to one another. And it can be kind of seen as a selfish thing, right? Because if you are showing love to the people around you, you're going to create an atmosphere and an environment that's just going to be healthier for you. Just imagine in our world, is there any problem and I really want to hear your thoughts later if you think of anything. Is there a problem in our world that couldn't be solved by us loving each other a little better? By us actually taking seriously the call to love God and to love our neighbor, no matter where our neighbor is, whether it's a person living with us or a person on the other side of the world. So much of the problems that we face is because we are either not honoring and loving God or those other human beings in the world, whether we're in relationship with them or not. Just think about road rage, right? There would never be those things if we just thought about loving the other person in the car next to us. But what does it mean to love God? How do we show that we love God? How do we actually put that into practice? Well, by obeying the commands of Jesus, so obeying what we hear from God through Jesus, by living our lives the way God would like us to live them. And you say, well, God doesn't tell me what to do. Well, if you read the Gospels and you listen to Jesus and take him seriously, you've got a pretty good idea of how to live your life. And here we hear it specifically that living our lives through the lens of love is how we are called to be. Doing what God asks out of love for God, not out of some checking off a box, but doing it because we love God. I'll only speak for myself, not for Deacon Hank or Brother John, but we don't do what we do because we're good people necessarily. We're really not that great. We do what we do because we love God, and because we love God, we're able to love all of you. And there are times when I don't want to do the things that I do, and I'm sure the guys would agree with me, but we do it because we love God, and we do it because we believe the promises of Jesus to be with us, and that we are loved, and so we are able to love the people around us. And honestly, when I was first ordained, I never believed that I would be able to do some of the things that I've been able to do, and it's only because of the love of God and because of taking seriously the call to love our neighbor and to create healthy and loving relationships with the people around us. I'm not a big Calvin fan, but Calvin suggests that we view our neighbor as God does, as a flawed and frail human being. That helps with the person you live with. When you really get angry with people, think about them and see how God sees them. How does God see this person? As a frail and flawed human being, just like me, just like you. And sometimes when we readjust our thoughts in that way, we can see that we are able to love our neighbor to the best of our ability in that moment. We're called to be God-bearers to each other and to the world. And to me, that means a love-bearer, someone who shows God's love to other people. That, to me, is the core of my call, to show God's love to other people in the best way that I can. Some days I get it better than others, but in the best way, because we're hardwired for that connection. We're hardwired to be in healthy relationship with other people, with God, and that love and belonging is central to human wholeness. And when we can create a relational experience of love, we can see that at the core of our being. I think that love for God sets us almost in right relationship with the universe. That it puts us in the proper place. That when we look to God with gratitude and with love for what we've been given and our lives, that we acknowledge that we are not the center of the universe. And then when we show love for our neighbor, we create community that's whole, community that's healthy, where people can thrive and grow in a way that brings them closer to God and sees the love of God. And so, although this conversation with the Pharisee started out of a perhaps more cynical bend, I'm grateful to Jesus for taking him seriously and for giving him the benefit of the doubt and for answering him and for giving us these commandments, because they're commandments that center us on what's important in life. Sharing with us what was important to Jesus, that we can live wholehearted lives where God is at the center of our life, and that we are able to be God-bearers to each other and to the world, showing the love of God and sharing that love with each other. Amen.
Amen.